In this video, I am going to tell about salts. Salts. Now, salt is the product of acid and base. When an acid reacts with base, salt and water is formed. Isn't it? Salt and water is formed. So it is the product of acid and the base. When acid and base reacts, salts are formed. So you can say that a salt contains the cation of the base and the anion of the acid. Okay. For example, suppose if I write here now HCl, 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 it is an acid, and the base is sodium hydroxide, isn't it? We get sodium chloride plus we get water. So okay, this is salt. Right here. So this is anion. This is cation, and Cl is anion. It is anion. It is anion. So okay, this salt contains cation of base and anion of an acid. Just you can see in the reaction I have shown here. It is like this. Just you see here now. This is. You see that HCl, this is an acid, and NaOH, this is a base. This is a strong acid and a strong base. When react with together, that makes sodium chloride, NaCl, and water, H2O. It is a balanced equation. The salt contains cation. Okay, of this is cation, means positive radical, and this has come from the base, and this is anion. It has come from the acid. This anion has come from the acid. So a salt can be defined as a substance which contains the cation of a base and anion of an acid. So there are so many salts are there. Okay. So there are so many salts. Salts of a strong acid and a strong base is a neutral salt whose pH is 7. Okay. On the other hand, salts of a strong acid and weak base is an acidic salt, and the pH will be less than 7. That is acidic salt. It will turn blue litmus red. And the salt of a strong base with weak acid is a basic salt with pH more than 7, and that will change the color of red litmus blue. So salts can be neutral, salts can be acidic, salts can be basic in nature. Okay, whenever a strong acid and a strong base react with each other, that makes a neutral salt. For example, just I have shown you HCl. HCl is a strong acid. HCl is a strong acid, and sodium hydroxide is a strong base. So when these two together, the salt produces sodium chloride, NaCl. This is a bench salt, and this salt we eat. This is edible, and the bench salt in vegetables, in all others, in other cooks now. So this NaCl is used. This is common salt, you can say. So this is a neutral salts, right? So salts may be 3 here now. One I have told you, neutral salts, acidic salts, and the basic salts. That depends from which acid and from which bases these are formed. Other neutral salt can be potassium nitrate, it can be potassium nitrate. Okay, and this is a neutral salt also. So it is produced by the reaction of this this nitric acid and this potassium hydroxide. Okay, but ammonium chloride, NH4Cl, ammonium chloride, NH4Cl, this is a acidic salt, and this is aluminum chloride, aluminum chloride. Example of acidic salt is aluminum chloride, zinc sulfate, copper sulfate. These are the acidic salts. Okay, and basic salts are sodium acetate, sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate. So these are the basic salts, right? Now, some salts are soluble and some salts are insoluble. So which salt can be called as soluble? Okay. Which salt can be called as soluble? So soluble salts are those salts whose 1 gram of it can be dissolved in 100 gram of 100 milliliter of water, it is. Okay, or you can say 100 gram of water, right? If 1 gram of salt completely dissolves in 100 ml of water, that salt is said to be soluble. Okay. So some salts are soluble, some are insoluble, and some are partly soluble or slightly soluble. So which is called soluble salts? If 1 gram of salt completely dissolves in 100 gram of water, that salt is said to be soluble. Okay. Now insoluble. If 0.1 gram, not more than 0.1 gram, not more than 0.1 gram of soluble dissolves in 100 ml of water, that is said to be insoluble. And which salt is slightly soluble? Yes, salt that dissolves in 100 ml of water is between 0.1 gram to 1 gram, 0.1 gram to 1 gram. It's okay. If the mass of the salt that dissolves in 100 gram of water is between 0.1 gram to 1 gram, that is called slightly soluble. Okay, slightly soluble it is. Now I will name some salts which are soluble and salts which are insoluble. So all nitrates and nitrites are soluble, nitrate salt. Okay, NO3, this is nitrate, and nitrite NO2. So all nitrate salts and all nitrite salts are soluble. For example, sodium nitrate, sodium nitrite are soluble in water. Clear? Once again I am repeating. Okay, salts which are soluble in water are nitrates, all the nitrate salts, sodium nitrate, potassium nitrate, calcium nitrate, aluminum nitrates, and all the nitrite also, NO2, calcium nitrite, sodium nitrite, okay, aluminum nitrate, so they all are soluble. All nitrate salt, nitrate and nitrate salt, nitrate and nitrite salts are soluble. Second, all chlorates are soluble, chlorate, like potassium chlorate, KClO3, KClO3, K ClO3, okay, potassium chloride, calcium chloride, CaLCO3, okay, so they are soluble in water. All the chloride means the radical ClO3, it is a radical, okay, so they are soluble. The valency is 1. KClO3, the valency is 1. So potassium chloride, KClO3, okay, it is soluble. Now all acetates, CH3COO, H is called it is called acetic acid, and the salt that is, okay, formed from acetic acid is called acetates. CH3COO, this is sodium acetate, so it is soluble. Acetate salt, it's okay, like sodium acetate, CH3COONA, this is soluble. Now almost all the salts of cation NH4 means ammonia, sodium and potassium are soluble. Yes, did you follow? So salts of, okay, potassium, salts of this sodium, potassium and ammonia, like ammonium chloride, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, sodium nitrate, potassium nitrate, okay, this is ammonium nitrate, so they are soluble. Okay, almost all, not I'm saying all, almost all, okay, salts of cation NH4 plus, Na plus and K plus are soluble in water. Now all chlorides are soluble except, remember, all chlorides are soluble except chlorides, Cl, except which one? Silver chloride, not soluble. Okay, mercury chloride, not soluble. Lead chloride, not soluble. Okay, but you know, lead chloride is soluble in hot water. Lead chloride is soluble in hot water. Okay. Now all sulfates are soluble except, which one? Calcium sulfate, this is not soluble. Okay, lead sulfate, not soluble. Mercury sulfate, not soluble. Silver sulfate are not soluble. 4 sulfate salts are not soluble. The rest are soluble. Okay. Which one is not soluble? Calcium sulfate, lead sulfate, mercury sulfate, silver sulfate. So they are all, okay, they are insoluble. Okay. But all other than these 4 are soluble in water. Clear? Once I am repeating here now. So soluble salts are nitrates and nitrites, and all the chlorate salts are soluble in water. All acetates are soluble in water, and almost all salts of ammonia, potassium and sodium are soluble in water. All chlorides are, okay, except silver chloride, mercury chloride, lead chloride, okay, are soluble in water. No, lead chloride is soluble in hot water. All sulfates are soluble except which one? Calcium sulfate, not soluble. Lead sulfate, not soluble. Mercury sulfate, not soluble. Silver sulfate, it is not soluble. It's okay. So now insoluble salts which are insoluble in water. So all carbonates are insoluble except those of alkali metals like ammonium chloride, ammonium carbonate is not soluble. All carbonates are insoluble except ammonium carbonate. Means ammonium carbonate is soluble. Clear? Then all hydroxides are insoluble except those of alkali metals and some of alkaline earth metal. Alkali metals means sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and earth alkaline metal means calcium, iron, strontium. So these are the earth alkaline metals. So hydroxides are insoluble. Okay. but those of alkali and earth alkaline metals are soluble. Now, all sulfide are insoluble except potassium sulfide, calcium sulfide, sodium sulfide, means alkali metals or earth alkaline metals. Sulfides of or this alkali metals and earth alkaline metals are soluble, but all other salts are insoluble. Okay, all sulfide salts are insoluble